Hey toy collectors, welcome to another super exciting outrageous toy review. Today I'm showing off my Warhammer 40,000 Ork Army. Now this Ork Army was created to be used in 2nd edition, but I was actually building it when 3rd edition was out. So it's sort of a mixture of old models and newer models. This is my Deathskull Warboss. I was pretty much buying any Oldhammer models I could find at the time, but the Deathskulls and the Badmoons are definitely my favorite clans in the Ork community. This is my mass of Goth space orcs. There were 20 of these guys included in the base game in 2nd edition, and I've customized them quite a bit. Here you can see these guys are a little bit more traditional. They all have the bolt pistol and the axe, although I've added battle damage to some of them. Here's another view of some more of these guys. Here we start getting into some of the weapon swaps that I did. People having additional bits and pieces glued on them, including some cylinders I thought looked like grenades at the time. Oh, he's got a salvaged Space Marine backpack. And then these guys start getting even more interesting with power axes and this shield that's attached to his bolt gun. Double axe. We got chain sword. And a double-headed axe. Here's another batch of orcs. The one has a Space Marine Power Fist. I always thought he looked really cool. And this one orc, I added a banner to him because there's a orc character called a Standard Bearer, and I felt like I might want one of those. I'm not real happy with that banner, but you have to remember I painted these guys a long time ago. No 2nd edition Ork Army is complete without the cardboard Dreadnought. This was included in the box set as a stand-in for a model you could buy. This is my weird boy Warphead and his Minders. It's a little bit more of a modern Psyker figure here, but the Minders are all old. I added the little shackle to his wrist and then a piece of chain to one of the Minders, just because I thought that was a really cool element since many of the figures had little shackles sculpted on them. So this Minder's holding the end of his chain, and it just kind of lines right up to the chain on the Warphead when you stand them next to each other, which I thought was kind of a cool design. There was actually a model back in the day where the Minders were physically holding the Psyker, which seemed really crazy to me. Here's another one of the Minders. I like how this guy has shackles sculpted on his belt. He's got a big old bolt gun there. I used this light blue, it's actually Space Wolf Gray, for a lot of my characters that I was painting. I guess I wasn't really familiar with the clans. I didn't really read the codexes. I was just starting to collect miniatures and paint them, and then I started getting into it. And I never know what to do with that bolt gun cradling arm, so this guy's scratching his butt. And this guy was modded to be smoking a cigarette. Do people smoke in the 40k universe? He's got shackles as well. This is a squad of Axe Commandos. I bought a box of Ork Boys and wanted to try and get as much bang for my buck out of it, so I made a bunch of different figures. At this point, I did have the codex and kind of knew what was going on. But the old models had become impossible to get. So these guys were supposed to represent the Axe Commandos. They all have an axe. They're all dressed in red. They have camo pants. Here's a little close-up of one with a power axe. And this guy actually has a Marine power axe. It's kind of out of the shot, though. I love that head that's hanging off his belt. This is my Runt Herder. He was, I believe, actually part of the Necromunda range. I do have some of the classic Snakebite Runt Herders now, but they are not painted currently. I feel like this guy is very vicious looking with the whip and his crazy tool. Here is my collection of Snotlings. I was very excited to be able to get 4 bases of Snotlings at the point in time that I was collecting these miniatures. I think I ordered them online in the early 2000s. I painted up a handful of Helper Gretchen here. Again, I picked these guys up around that same era where we were transitioning And the second edition models were still sort of around occasionally, but also lots of new Gorka Morka style figures were available. I love these old Gretchen. The guy with the big wrench, the one that's holding the little squig in his hand. They're just super fun. Even the guy that, like, can't look at what he's shooting, he's gonna put someone or something out of its misery. I love it. I was trying to bolster my Gretchen mob, and I picked up these guys that are definitely the Gorka Morka style grots, but they add a nice flavor to the collection. So I really wanted a mechanic with a shock attack gun. That was always something I really wanted to include in my army. I couldn't find models like that, but I was able to order the shock attack gun online, I think when I bought the Snotlings. So I used one of the Ork boys from that box of more modern Ork boys I bought to make the mechanic, and his wrench is actually the wrench from the game Clue. Now we're getting into my Gretchen Horde. These are the 40 Gretchen that came in the second edition box set. They're all exactly the same, so I did do a lot of customizing, and I tried to make every single one of them unique. So they don't really have a uniform paint scheme at all. Some of them are real bizarre, and I got into doing a lot of modding as I went through the Gretchen, and I was getting sick of painting the same exact mini over and over again. This guy's got a screw for a helmet. This guy's paint scheme is actually based on Ninja Force Storm Shadow from G.I. Joe. The cow. I had to borrow Tentacle Pink from my buddy to paint the udder on his skirt piece there. I call this guy Elvis. Now we're getting into some of the heavier mods. These guys have a lot of extra scavenged weapons and Space Marine shoulder pads and things like that. This guy's got a big shield and a bayonet. I think the shield is actually a jet engine from a model kit. This guy's called Hot Dog Stand. This Gretchen's wearing a ghillie suit. This guy's got a giant bayonet, and this Gretchen has a searchlight on the front of his weapon. Here we've got more modded up guys with extra equipment. A lot of these guys have shoulder pads scavenged from Space Marines, including my homebrew chapter, the Dark Phoenix chapter on the one. This guy I called William Wallace. He's got the blue face paint from Braveheart, but he's got a Dark Angel shoulder pad. This vicious bayonet, I think, came off of a plow blade for a tank. And this guy's actually painted up in the same paint scheme as Han Solo, basically. He's got a black vest and white sleeves. He's got dark blue pants with the red dotted line stripe going down it. I don't know, I was just looking for anything to spice these guys up. We've got a Gorka Morka era Pain Boy here, and I was looking for some of the character models, and I picked up this Pain Boy. I think he is kind of interesting. I did a whole video on this squad. It's a Deathskull unit of heavy weapon guys and custom combi weapon figures. I used those modern Ork boys I bought that I split the box up, and I used all kinds of stuff from my bit box, like Chaos Dreadnought weapons and things like that, to equip these figures. I do have some old school Deathskulls that I'm going to be painting in the near future. This section here covers some models that my buddy Greg was painting. I was also trying to get my buddy Greg into Warhammer. He was the fourth guy in my core group of friends and the only person that didn't play. So that was his Ork Warboss. You can see he's got a Warp Bike here. I think he's got one or two other ones that weren't painted yet. An Ork Truck, which points out that I don't have any vehicles for my army yet. Oh, and a random squig. I also did a video about my buddy Derek's Space Ork Raiders. These were the first Warhammer 40k miniatures I'd ever seen. You'll have to excuse the paint job on these guys. They're pretty old, and we were pretty young when we painted them. Thanks for watching this super exciting, outrageous tour review. Make sure to like, subscribe. Let me know which models you like down in the comments below. I plan to paint more orcs in the future.